Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel where we dive into stories so juicy they'll have you hooked from the jump. Tonight, we're kicking things off with a wild ride that starts with a spilled glass of wine in a ritzy Chicago restaurant, spins us into the high-stakes world of a billionaire, and lands us in a small Georgia town soaked in rain. Picture this: a soaked vest, a flustered waitress, and a moment so electric it changes everything. Stick around to find out if this clash of worlds ends in fireworks or heartbreak, and trust me, you won't see the ending coming. The Velvet Crown wasn't just any restaurant. Tucked into the heart of Chicago's Loop, it was the kind of place where the city's elite came to flex their wealth. Marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, their golden light bouncing off wine glasses that cost more than most people's rent. The air smelled like truffle oil and old money, and the hum of polite chatter mixed with the faint clink of silverware. It was a Friday night, and the place was buzzing. Foreign diplomats sipping Bordeaux, tech moguls cutting into $200 steaks, and socialites laughing just loud enough to be noticed. For the staff, though, it was a pressure cooker. One wrong move, and you were toast. Jada Brooks stood near the entrance, smoothing the front of her black uniform, a fitted blouse and skirt that hugged her curves a little too well for her liking. At 22, she was the newest face on the floor, a small-town girl from Ashwood, Georgia, with skin like polished mahogany and a cascade of natural curls she'd tied back with a cheap scrunchie. Her dark eyes flicked nervously around the room as she adjusted the little name tag pinned to her chest. She'd only been at Velvet Crown for a month, scraping by on tips to send money back home to her mom, Marla, and her little brother, KJ. Chicago was a beast, cold, fast, and unforgiving, but Jada was determined to make it work. She'd landed the gig thanks to a rushed interview with the manager, Ronnie Hayes, a wiry guy with a permanent scowl and a habit of barking orders like a drill sergeant. He'd barely glanced at her resume, just nodded at her soft southern drawl and said, "You'll do. Don't screw up." Jada hadn't planned on fine dining being her big break, but the pay was decent, and she wasn't about to let Ashwood's whispers, "She'll be back in a week," prove true. Tonight, though, her nerves were on edge. Word had spread through the staff like wildfire. Ethan Carver was at table 12. Ethan Carver wasn't just rich, he was the guy. At 32, he ran Carver Enterprises, a sprawling empire of luxury hotels, tech startups, and real estate deals that stretched from coast to coast. People said he'd turned his family's modest fortune into $1 billion machine overnight, and the rumors about him were endless, ruthless, unforgiving. The kind of man who'd fire you for breathing too loud. Jada had seen his face on magazine covers, sharp jawline, ice blue eyes, dark hair slicked back just so, and heard the servers whisper about his tips. Generous if you nailed it, non-existent if you didn't. She'd promised herself to steer clear, keep her head down, and survive the night. But fate had other plans. Jada balanced a tray with 2 tall glasses of Bordeaux, the deep red liquid sloshing slightly as she weaved through the chaos. The restaurant was a minefield, busboys darting out of the kitchen, guests swiveling to gawk at each other, and the constant threat of a spill. She took a deep breath, her heart thumping like a bass line, and mentally rehearsed her steps. Approach table 12, smile, set the drinks down, retreat. Easy, except it wasn't. Ethan sat there like he owned the place, which, knowing his bank account, he probably could have. His broad shoulders filled out a tailored charcoal suit, the vest underneath crisp and pristine, a silver Rolex glinting on his wrist. He was on his phone, voice low and clipped, exuding the kind of quiet power that made the room bend toward him. Jada's palms sweated as she closed the distance, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. She was almost there. One step, two, when a busboy, some kid with a mop of greasy hair, barreled past her. His elbow grazed her arm, just enough to throw her off. Her foot slipped on the polished floor, and time slowed to a crawl. The tray tilted. One glass wobbled, then tipped. A cascade of ruby-red wine splashed across Ethan's chest, soaking his vest and dripping onto the tablecloth. The sound, liquid hitting fabric, then the floor, cut through the dining room like a gunshot. Conversations died. Heads turned. Jada froze, the empty tray trembling in her hands, her breath caught in her throat. "Oh my God," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me, fix this." She dropped the tray on the table with a clatter and grabbed a napkin, lunging forward to dab at the stain. Her hands brushed his chest, the thin fabric of his dress shirt warm under her fingers, and she felt the hard lines of muscle beneath. Her cheeks burned as she realized what she was doing, practically groping the richest guy in Chicago in front of 50 witnesses. She jerked back, but not before their eyes locked. Ethan's gaze was piercing, those blue eyes slicing through her like a blade. Up close, he was even more striking. High cheekbones, a faint shadow of stubble, and a scent like cedar and smoke that hit her like a punch. For a second she thought he'd explode, demand her head on a platter. Instead, his lips twitched into a smirk, slow and dangerous. He stood in one fluid motion, towering over her at 6'2", and brushed a droplet of wine off his cuff. "That's a $5,000 vest, sweetheart," he said, his voice smooth as velvet, but edged with frost. "You have any idea what you just did?" Jada's stomach dropped. $5,000? She couldn't scrape that together in a year, let alone a night. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just a choked sound that made her want to crawl under the table. The room was deathly quiet now, every pair of eyes boring into her. She could feel the heat of their stares, the judgment, the pity. Then came the roar she'd been dreading. "You're fired!" Ronnie Hayes stormed over, his face red as a tomato, veins bulging in his neck. "Get your shit and get out, Brooks!" Jada's heart sank. Fired. After a month. She'd be back in Ashwood by morning, tail between her legs, proving everyone right. Tears pricked her eyes, but before she could move, Ethan's voice cut through the chaos like a whip. "No," he said, calm but firm, raising a hand. "She stays. I've got plans for her." Ronnie stopped mid-rant, his mouth flapping like a fish out of water. "Mr. Carver, I said she stays." Ethan's tone left no room for argument. He turned back to Jada, that smirk still playing on his lips, though his eyes stayed cold. "You want to redeem yourself?" Jada blinked, her brain scrambling to catch up. Redeem herself? From the guy who could buy this whole damn building and not blink? She nodded, too stunned to speak, praying this wasn't some cruel joke. Her job, her lifeline, was hanging by a thread, and this man, this stranger, held it in his hands. "Good." Ethan dabbed at the stain with his napkin, casual as if she'd spilled water, not a month's rent. "Be at my office tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Carver Enterprises, top floor. You're working for me now, to pay off this little mess." He adjusted his cuffs, the movement precise, deliberate. "Call it restitution." Restitution. The word hit her like a brick. Jada's stomach flipped, a mix of relief and dread churning inside her. Working for him, directly. She had no clue what that meant. More shifts here, filing papers, shining his damn shoes. Ronnie shot her a glare that could melt steel, but he didn't dare contradict Ethan. The guy was the Velvet Crown's golden ticket, and everyone knew it. I'll be there," Jada stammered, her voice barely audible. Her face was on fire, her pulse racing. She bolted for the back room, dodging curious stares, and locked herself in the staff bathroom. Leaning against the sink, she stared at her reflection. Wide eyes, flushed cheeks, a girl way out of her depth. What the hell had she just gotten herself into? Later that night, she trudged back to her shoebox apartment in Humboldt Park, a third-floor walk-up with peeling paint and a radiator that clanked like a dying engine. She kicked off her sneakers, collapsed onto the lumpy futon, and stared at the ceiling. Ethan Carver's face flashed in her mind. Those eyes, that voice, the way he'd turned her disaster into something else. She tossed and turned, replaying the moment her hands brushed his chest, the heat of it lingering like a ghost. Tomorrow, she'd face him again. And God help her, she wasn't sure if she was terrified or something else. Whoa, y'all. If that opening got your heart racing, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Jada's night went from 0 to 100 real quick, and trust me, this is just the start. Stick around. Things are about to get wild. Jada woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the futon, the screen flashing 6:45 a.m. Her stomach churned as she dragged herself out of bed, the memory of last night's disaster still fresh. Ethan Carver's voice echoed in her head, 8 a.m. sharp, and she wasn't about to test if he was bluffing. She stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face, and stared at her reflection. Her curls were a mess, her eyes puffy from a restless night, but she didn't have time to dwell. She had to look the part, whatever that meant for a billionaire's office. She dug through her closet, pulling out her best thrift store find, a navy blazer with slightly frayed cuffs and a pencil skirt that fit just right. The heels she'd scored for $5 at Goodwill were scuffed, but a quick swipe of black marker hid the worst of it. Good enough, she muttered, tugging her hair into a low bun. She grabbed a granola bar, her CTA pass, and bolted out the door, the Chicago wind biting at her cheeks as she hustled to the L train. Carver Enterprises loomed over downtown like a steel and glass giant, its sleek lines cutting into the gray morning sky. Jada craned her neck to take it in, the building's height making her dizzy. The lobby was a whole other level. Polished granite floors, a massive abstract painting that probably cost more than her mom's house, and people in sharp suits moving like they owned the world. She felt like an imposter in her Target outfit, but she squared her shoulders and marched to the reception desk. Hi, she said, her voice cracking. I'm Jada Brooks, here to see Mr. Carver. Mr. The receptionist, a woman with perfect highlights and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, glanced up from her computer. Top floor. Private elevators over there. Don't be late. She pointed to a gleaming steel box across the lobby, and Jada nodded, her palms sweaty as she stepped inside. The ride-up was silent, except for the hum of the motor, her heart pounding louder with every floor. When the doors slid open, she stepped into a world she'd only seen in movies. Ethan's office was massive, all glass walls and minimalist vibes. A mahogany desk dominated the space, flanked by leather chairs that looked too expensive to sit in. The Chicago skyline stretched out beyond the windows, a sea of rooftops under a cloudy haze. Ethan was already there, typing at his desk, his suit jacket draped over a chair. He glanced up as she entered, those blue eyes locking onto her like a hawk spotting prey. You're on time, he said, leaning back. Good start. Jada swallowed, clutching her purse. I didn't want to find out what happens if I'm not. He smirked, just a flicker, then gestured to a chair. Sit. We've got a month. You do what I say, when I say it. No questions. In return, I won't make you cough up $5,000 for that vest. Deal? A month. Jada's mind raced. A month of what? She nodded anyway, her voice stuck somewhere in her throat. Deal. And just like that, she was in. Ethan didn't waste time. He tossed her into the deep end like she'd been his assistant for years. First task: brew his morning coffee, black, exactly 165 degrees. She fumbled with the fancy machine in the break room, cursing under her breath as it hissed and spat. Next, he had her scheduling calls with CEOs whose names she'd only seen in headlines, her fingers shaking as she typed. By noon, she was scribbling notes in a meeting with suits who barely looked at her, their voices dripping with words like mergers and ROI. It was a whirlwind, and Jada felt like she was drowning. Ethan was everywhere, watching, correcting, demanding. "Too hot," he'd say, pushing the coffee back. "Fix the typo in that email. Now." His tone wasn't cruel, just sharp, like he expected the world to snap to his rhythm. And damn if she didn't try. She couldn't afford to fail. Not when Marla's tired voice still rang in her ears, asking about KJ's school fees. That night, the office emptied out, leaving just her and Ethan. She was at a desk outside his glass-walled kingdom, wrestling with a spreadsheet he'd dumped on her, some financial report she barely understood. The clock hit 10 p.m., and her stomach growled, but she kept going, determined to prove she wasn't just some clumsy waitress. Then she heard his chair creak. Ethan stepped out, loosening his tie, his shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a guy who'd just run a marathon. Hair slightly mussed, a shadow of stubble on his jaw. He stopped behind her, close enough that she caught a whiff of his cologne, woodsy, warm, expensive as hell. "You're still here," he said, peering at her screen. Jada's breath hitched. "Yeah, trying to get this right. You said it's due tomorrow." He leaned in, one hand on the desk, the other brushing her shoulder as he pointed at a cell. "Here, you flipped the columns. Rookie mistake." His voice was low, almost a murmur, and his breath grazed her neck. Jada froze, her skin prickling. He was so close she could feel the heat radiating off him, his forearm flexing under the rolled-up sleeve. Her eyes darted to his hand, strong, steady, and for a split second, she wondered what it'd feel like somewhere else. "You're shaking," he said, pulling back just enough to meet her gaze. "Nervous or just bad at Excel?" She forced a laugh, her cheeks burning. "Maybe both. You're kind intense, you know that." He straightened, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. "You'll get used to it, or you won't. Either way, figure it out." He tapped the desk once, then turned back to his office, leaving her there, heart hammering. The next morning, Jada was still reeling when a new face popped up. Marlon Tate, Ethan's CFO and right-hand man, strolled in with a grin that lit up the room. He was tall, black, with a fade haircut and a vibe that screamed laid-back confidence. "So you're the wine spiller," he said, leaning against her desk. "Heard you gave Ethan a bath last night." Jada groaned, burying her face in her hands. "Don't remind me. I'm still waiting for the floor to swallow me up." Marlon chuckled. "Nah, girl, you're good. Never seen him this distracted. Usually he'd have fired you on the spot. You must have done something right." "Distracted?" Jada peeked up, frowning. "He's been riding my ass all day." "That's the thing," Marlon said, lowering his voice. "He's noticing you. Trust me, I've known him 10 years. Ethan doesn't keep people around unless they've got something he wants." Her stomach flipped. "Something he wants?" She shook it off, but Marlon's words stuck with her. Later she called Tina Reese, her best friend back in Ashwood, spilling the whole story over a crackly line. "Girl, you're living a damn rom-com," Tina cackled, her voice warm and teasing. "Next thing you know, he's gonna sweep you off your feet and buy you a penthouse." "Shut up," Jada said, laughing despite herself. "He's my boss, T, and he's... I don't know. Complicated." "Complicated's just code for hot," Tina shot back. "You better watch yourself, Jada Brooks. Don't go falling for no rich white boy who can't handle your spice." Jada hung up, her mind buzzing. She wasn't falling for anyone. She couldn't. But that moment last night, Ethan so close she could have counted his eyelashes, wouldn't leave her alone. It wasn't just nerves anymore. It was something hotter, something dangerous. And as she stared at the ceiling of her tiny apartment, she wondered how long she could keep pretending it wasn't there. 2 weeks into her stint at Carver Enterprises, Jada was starting to find her footing. She'd figured out the coffee machine. 165 degrees, no more, no less. Could juggle Ethan's insane schedule without breaking a sweat, and even earned a rare "not bad" from him after nailing a client call. It wasn't easy. Every day felt like running a marathon in heels, but she was doing it. For the first time since leaving Ashwood, she felt a flicker of pride. Maybe she could hack this big city life after all. But the cracks were showing. It started with the looks. The execs in their tailored suits and $1,000 watches didn't say much to her face, but their eyes did the talking. Cold, judging, like she was a stray dog who'd wandered into their clubhouse. She'd catch snippets as she passed the break room. "She's just the wine girl," or "How long's this one gonna last?" And each one stung like a paper cut. Jada brushed it off, told herself it didn't matter. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to survive. Her little desk outside Ethan's office became her bunker. She'd sit there, headphones in, drowning out the hum of the floor with old-school R&B, Tina's playlist from back home. The music kept her sane, reminded her of Ashwood's dusty streets and Marla's Sunday dinners, but even that couldn't block out the tension building around her. Ethan was a perfectionist, sure, but he'd never snapped at her, not like the stories she'd heard. Still, the pressure was suffocating. One slip, and she'd be out on her ass, back to square one. Then came Wednesday. Jada was in a boardroom, scribbling notes as Ethan grilled some VP about quarterly projections. The room was all glass and steel, the kind of place that made you feel small. She kept her head down, pen moving fast, when she heard it. A low mutter from the guy next to her, a slick-haired exec named Greg something or other. "She's just a waitress who got lucky," he said under his breath, smirking at the woman across from him. "Carver's charity case." Jada's pen froze mid-word. Her chest tightened, heat creeping up her neck. She wanted to turn, snap back. "I'm right here, asshole." But her throat locked up. The room spun for a second, Ethan's voice fading into a dull buzz. She forced herself to keep writing, knuckles white around the pen, but the words burned into her brain. Charity case. Was that what they saw? What he saw? She made it through the meeting, barely, and bolted to the bathroom the second it ended. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she gripped the sink, staring at herself in the mirror. Her blazer was wrinkled, her bun slipping, and those damn scuffed heels peeked out like a neon sign screaming, "Outsider." She took a shaky breath, splashing water on her face. "You're fine," she whispered. "You've got this." But the doubt gnawed at her, sharp and relentless. Back at her desk, she was still reeling when the elevator dinged. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, and dripping in designer everything. Her red dress hugged her like a second skin, and the clack of her stilettos echoed across the floor. Jada's gut twisted. She knew that face from the tabloids. Vanessa Hart, Ethan's ex, some hotshot real estate mogul who'd been linked to him years ago. The office buzzed as she breezed past, not sparing Jada a glance, and pushed open Ethan's door without knocking. Jada tried to focus on her work, but the glass walls didn't hide much. Vanessa leaned over Ethan's desk, her voice sharp, his low and clipped. Fragments drifted out. Old promises, new projects. But it was the way she looked at him that made Jada's stomach flip. Possessive, familiar, like she still owned a piece of him. After 20 minutes, Vanessa strutted out, tossing her hair and shooting Jada a smirk that said, "You're nothing." Then Ethan emerged, his jaw tight. "Reschedule my 3 p.m., he said, not meeting her eyes. I'm stepping out. Jada nodded, fingers hovering over her keyboard. Everything okay? He paused just for a beat, then said, Yeah, just handle it. He grabbed his coat and was gone, leaving her with a sinking feeling she couldn't shake. That night, back in her Humboldt Park apartment, Jada flopped onto the futon, the radiator clanking like a bad drummer. She kicked off her shoes, the ache in her feet matching the one in her chest. The day replayed in her head. Greg's jab, Vanessa's smirk, Ethan's distance. She grabbed her phone and dialed Marlon Tate, figuring he'd have some answers. He picked up on the second ring, his voice warm and easy. Yo, Jada, what's good? He said. You surviving the Carver gauntlet? Barely, she sighed. Marlon, level with me. What's the deal with Vanessa Hart? She waltzed in today like she runs the place. Marlon let out a low whistle. Oh, you met the Ice Queen. Yeah, she and Ethan go way back. Engaged once till it crashed and burned. She's been sniffing around lately. Probably wants in on some deal. Why? She say something? No, just gave me a vibe, Jada said, picking at a loose thread on her skirt. And there's other stuff. People here. They look at me like I don't belong. Like I'm some pity hire. There was a pause, then Marlon's tone softened. Listen, Jada. This place is a shark tank. They'd eat their own moms if it got 'em a bonus. But Ethan, he's not like that. If he kept you around, it's 'cause you've got grit. Don't let him get in your head. Easy for you to say, she muttered. You're not the one they're whispering about. True, he said, chuckling. But I've seen how he watches you. He doesn't do that with pity hires. Just watch out for Vanessa. She's got claws. Jada hung up, her mind spinning. She wanted to believe Marlon, but the doubts kept piling up. Then her phone buzzed again. Marla, her mom, calling from Ashwood. She answered, bracing herself. Hey, baby. Marla's voice crackled through, tired but warm. How's my big city girl holding up? I'm good, Mama, Jada lied, forcing a smile. Just busy. You sound wore out. That job treating you right? It's a lot, Jada admitted, sinking deeper into the futon. But I'm making it work. How's KJ? Still a handful, asking when his big sis is coming home. Marla paused, then added, Jada, you know you don't have to kill yourself up there. We're fine. I'm not, Jada said, sharper than she meant. I want to help, Mama. I'm not coming back with nothing, Marla sighed. All right, stubborn girl. Just don't let those rich folks chew you up, you hear? Promise, Jada said. But as she hung up, the weight settled heavier. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for them. And now, with Vanessa in the mix, it felt like the ground was shifting under her feet. The next day, she overheard Marlon and Ethan in the break room, their voices low but clear. Vanessa's pushing hard, Marlon said. Says she's got a stake in that old project, Nia's project. Jada's ears perked up. Nia? Who the hell was Nia? Ethan's reply was curt. She's got nothing. Drop it, Marlon pressed. You sure? 'Cause she's acting like... I said drop it, Ethan snapped, and the door swung open. Jada ducked behind her monitor, pulse racing. Nia, a name she'd never heard, tied to Vanessa, tied to Ethan. It was another piece of a puzzle she didn't want to solve, but couldn't ignore. The whispers, the looks, Vanessa's smug entrance. It all crashed together, leaving her wondering, was she just a pawn in some game she didn't understand? Jada had been at Carver Enterprises for 3 weeks when Ethan dropped the bombshell. Pack a bag, he said one afternoon, barely looking up from his laptop. We're flying to New York tomorrow. Client meeting. You're coming. She blinked, her pen hovering over her notepad. New York? Like, the New York? No, New York, Florida. He deadpanned, then smirked. Yes, the city. Be ready by 6 a.m. Jet's private. Don't make me wait. Jada's head spun as she nodded, scrambling to process. A private jet? She'd never even been on a regular plane, let alone one with leather seats and champagne. Back at her apartment, she tossed clothes into a beat-up duffel bag, her best blazer, a couple of tops, and the one decent dress she owned, a black number from Ross that hugged her curves just right. She called Tina that night, pacing her tiny living room. Girl, a jet? Tina squealed through the phone. You're living some Cinderella shit now. More like Cinderella's intern. Jada laughed, but her stomach fluttered. I don't even know what I'm doing, T. What if I mess this up? You won't, Tina said firm. You're Jada Brooks. You've got this. Just don't let that man charm you out of your good sense. Charm? Jada snorted. He's more likely to fire me than flirt with me. Tina teased. Keep telling yourself that. The next morning, Jada met Ethan at a private airstrip just outside Chicago, the wind whipping her curls as she lugged her bag toward a sleek white jet. Ethan was already there, looking annoyingly perfect in a gray suit, sunglasses perched on his nose. He gave her a once-over, then nodded toward the plane. Let's go. The flight was surreal. Plush seats, a flight attendant pouring orange juice into crystal glasses, and Ethan across from her, flipping through a tablet like it was just another Tuesday. Jada stared out the window as the city shrank below, her nerves buzzing. This was her life now? She pinched herself under the table, just to be sure. New York hit her like a freight train. The minute they landed, it was all taxis, skyscrapers and noise, horns blaring, people shouting, a million lights flashing against the dusk. They checked into a hotel on the Upper East Side, some swanky place with velvet curtains and a lobby chandelier that looked like it belonged in a palace. Jada's room was bigger than her apartment, with a king-size bed and a view of Central Park she couldn't stop staring at. She FaceTimed Marla, spinning the phone around. Look at this, Mama, she said, grinning. Can you believe it? Marla's tired eyes softened. Lord, baby, you're really out there. Be careful, okay? Always, Jada promised, but as she hung up, a knot tightened in her chest. Careful wasn't exactly her strong suit lately. The client dinner was at a rooftop restaurant, all glass railings and twinkling city lights. Jada sat beside Ethan, taking notes as he schmoozed with a tech billionaire named Patel, a guy with a loud laugh and a handshake that lingered too long. The wine flowed, red, rich, expensive, and Jada sipped hers slow, trying to keep her head straight. Ethan was in his element, charming but sharp, steering the conversation like a pro. By the end, Patel was signing something on a napkin, and Ethan's smirk said deal closed. Back at the hotel, they hit the bar downstairs, a dimly lit spot with jazz humming in the background. Ethan ordered a bourbon. Jada stuck with wine, her third glass of the night. The buzz was hitting her, loosening her tongue, and when Ethan leaned back in his booth, tie undone, she couldn't help herself. So, she said, swirling her glass, you do this a lot? Jet off, close million-dollar deals, act like it's no big deal? He shrugged, sipping his drink. It's the job. You get used to it. Doubt I ever will, she said, laughing softly. Back home, a big night's frying chicken with my mom, and watching KJ try to beat me at Uno. Ethan's eyes flicked to her, curious. KJ? My little brother. He's 10. Thinks he's a card shark, but he cheats like crazy. She smiled, the memory warming her. Mom, Marla, she's the real MVP. Works doubles at the textile plant just to keep us going. He nodded, something softening in his face. Sounds like she's tough. Tougher than me, Jada said, then hesitated. What about you? Family. Ethan's jaw tightened just for a second. Not much to tell. Parents are gone. No siblings. Just me and the company. The air shifted, heavier now. Jada took another sip, the wine making her bold. That why you're so intense? No one to tell you to chill? He chuckled, low and dry. Maybe, or maybe I just like winning. It's like... They talked longer than she expected, about Ashwood's humid summers, Chicago's brutal winters, the time she burned a batch of biscuits and nearly set off the smoke alarm. Ethan didn't say much about himself, but he listened, really listened, his eyes locked on her like she was the only person in the room. The bar emptied out, the jazz slowing to a lazy hum, and by the time they headed upstairs, Jada's head was spinning, not just from the wine. In the hallway outside her room, she fumbled with her keycard, the silence thick between them. Ethan stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, watching her. She got the door open, then turned, catching his gaze. He stepped closer, too close, and the air crackled. His shirt was unbuttoned at the top, a sliver of collarbone peeking out, and that damn cologne hit her again, woody and warm. Thanks for tonight, she said, voice soft. I mean, letting me tag along. You earned it, he said, his tone low, rough around the edges. He was close enough now that she could see the flecks of gray in his eyes, feel the heat off him. Her breath hitched as he leaned in, just a fraction, his lips hovering near hers. She could taste the bourbon on his breath, feel the pull, like gravity, like a mistake she wanted to make. But then Tina's voice echoed in her head. Don't let him charm you. And she pulled back, heart pounding. I can't, she whispered, stepping into her room. I can't be your rebound, Ethan. His brows furrowed. Rebound? Good night, she said, shutting the door before he could answer. She leaned against it, pulse racing, the almost kiss burning in her mind. What the hell was she doing? The next morning, back in Chicago, the vibe was off. Ethan was curt, all business, barely looking at her as he barked orders. Jada buried herself in work, but the tension lingered. Then, at noon, Vanessa Hart swept in again, all heels and attitude. She didn't even glance at Jada, just strode into Ethan's office and shut the door. Minutes later, Jada's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He's not who you think. Ask him about Naya. V. Jada stared at it, her blood running cold. Naya. That name again. She glanced at the glass walls, Vanessa laughing, Ethan's face unreadable, and the knot in her gut tightened. Back at her apartment that night, she paced, the text glowing on her screen. She wanted to confront him, demand answers, but fear stopped her. What if Vanessa was right? What if she was just a piece in some messed-up puzzle? Jada couldn't shake the text from Vanessa. He's not who you think. Ask him about Nia. It looped in her head like a bad song, gnawing at her every time she sat at her desk outside Ethan's office. She'd tried to play it cool since New York, keeping her head down, dodging his eyes, but the almost kiss hung between them like a live wire. Ethan wasn't helping either. He'd gone cold again, all clipped orders and stony silences, like that night in the hallway never happened. Maybe it hadn't, not to him, but to her, it was everything. Monday rolled around, gray and dreary, the Chicago skyline smudged with rain clouds. Jada was sorting Ethan's inbox when Vanessa strutted in, third time in a week. She wore a cream coat that screamed money and a smile that screamed trouble, her heels clicking like a countdown. Jada, right? she said, pausing at her desk, voice syrupy sweet. You're still here. Impressive. Jada's jaw tightened. Just doing my job. Vanessa leaned in, lowering her voice. Oh, honey, you're more than that to him. But you should know, he's got a habit of picking up strays. Ever hear of Nia Jackson? The name hit Jada like a slap. Nia. Again. She forced her face to stay blank. No. Should I? Vanessa's lips curved, sharp as a blade. Ask him. Or don't. Either way, he'll chew you up and spit you out when he's done. I'd hate to see a sweet thing like you get burned. She straightened, tossing her hair, and sauntered into Ethan's office, leaving Jada reeling. Her hands shook as she typed, Vanessa's words sinking in. Strays, burned, Nia Jackson. She wanted to march in there, demand answers, but fear glued her to her chair. What if it was true? What if she was just some project to him, a stand-in for a ghost? The thought twisted her gut, sour and heavy. That afternoon, Ethan called her in. He was at his desk, sleeves rolled up, a stack of files in front of him. I need you to pull the old Hudson Project docs, he said, not looking up. Should be in the archives. Today. Jada nodded, heading for the file room, a cold, dusty space tucked away on the 40th floor. She rifled through boxes, her mind elsewhere, when she spotted a folder labeled Hudson NJ. Curiosity clawed at her. She glanced over her shoulder, no one around, then flipped it open. Inside was a photo, Ethan, younger, laughing with a black woman. She had a wide smile, kind eyes, braids spilling over her shoulders. A sticky note was attached. Nia Jackson, Project Lead, 2018. Jada's breath caught. Nia. She slammed the folder shut, heart pounding, and shoved it back. But the image stuck. Ethan happy, Nia alive, and her, what? A replacement? A rebound? She grabbed the Hudson files and stormed back to his office, dropping them on his desk with a thud. Here, she said, voice tight. He looked up, frowning. Something wrong? She wanted to scream it. Who's Nia? What am I to you? But the words choked her. No, she lied, turning to leave. Just tired. That night, back in her apartment, Jada couldn't sit still. She paced the creaky floor, rain tapping the windows, her phone buzzing with a text from Marlon. You good? Looked off today. She didn't reply. Instead, she called Tina, spilling everything. The photo, Vanessa, the doubts piling up like bricks. Girl, you need to ask him, Tina said, firm. Straight up. Who's this Nia chick? I can't, Jada groaned, rubbing her temples. What if he fires me? Or worse, what if I'm right? Then you know, Tina shot back. Better than wondering. You're Jada Brooks, not some scared little mouse. Jada hung up, Tina's words echoing. She wasn't a mouse, but she felt like one, trapped in a maze she didn't build. The next day, Vanessa upped the ante. She cornered Jada in the break room, a coffee cup in hand, her smile all teeth. Thought about my advice, Vanessa said, casual as hell. I've got an opening at Heart Realty. 6 figures, benefits, no Ethan Carver breathing down your neck. You'd be a fool to stay here. Jada's eyes narrowed. Why do you care? I don't, Vanessa said, shrugging. But I know how this ends. He'll drop you like he dropped Nia, only she didn't walk away. Car accident, poor thing. Ethan's got a guilt complex a mile wide. You're just his latest fix. The room tilted. A car accident. Nia was dead? Jada's voice came out small. You're lying. Am I? Vanessa sipped her coffee, unfazed. Check the news archives. 2018. Then decide if you want to be next. She walked off, leaving Jada gripping the counter, her knees weak. She couldn't focus after that. Every glance at Ethan felt like a stab. His calm, his control. Hiding what? Guilt? Lies? That evening, she stayed late, sorting files, when she found it, a locked drawer in his desk. She shouldn't have, but she did. Grabbed a paperclip, jimmied it open like KJ taught her back home. Inside was another photo, Nia, laughing, Ethan's arm around her, and a note in his handwriting. "I'm sorry." Jada's vision blurred with tears. Sorry for what? She shoved it back, slamming the drawer, and that's when Ethan walked in. He stopped, eyes narrowing. "What are you doing?" She spun around, anger boiling over. "Who's Nia, Ethan? Tell me the truth." His face hardened, a muscle ticking in his jaw. "Where'd you hear that name?" "Doesn't matter," she snapped, stepping closer. "Vanessa says I'm just your latest stray, that you're using me to fix whatever you broke with her." I saw the photo, Ethan. Her, you, happy. Am I just Nia 2.0 to you? He flinched, just barely, but it was enough. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then tell me." Her voice cracked, raw. "'Cause I'm done guessing. I'm not your damn charity case." Ethan's eyes flashed, dark and stormy. "You think that's what this is? You're wrong, Jada. But if you want to run, go. I'm not chasing you." The words hit like a punch. She stood there, chest heaving, rain streaking the windows behind him. She wanted him to fight, to explain, but he just stared, walls up, shutting her out. "Fine," she said, voice breaking. "I'm gone." She grabbed her bag, typed a resignation email on her phone. "I quit. Thanks for nothing," and hit send. By midnight, she was on a Greyhound bus to Ashwood, Chicago's lights fading behind her. The seat smelled like stale cigarettes, the hum of the engine drowning out her sobs. She'd left everything, her job, her shot, him, back in her old bedroom, posters peeling off the walls. She curled up under a faded quilt, Marla's worried voice drifting through the door. "You okay, baby?" "No," Jada whispered to herself, tears soaking the pillow. "Not even close." Ethan's face haunted her. The way he'd looked at her, the silence that said more than words. She'd run, but it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like losing. 2 weeks had passed since Jada climbed off that Greyhound bus, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder, Ashwood's familiar dirt road stretching out under a quiet dawn. She'd slipped back into her old life like a worn-out pair of sneakers, working shifts at Dixie Diner, pouring coffee for truckers and locals who asked about her big city adventure with knowing grins. She'd smile, shrug, say, "Didn't work out," and leave it at that. But every clink of a mug, every whiff of greasy hash browns, carried the ache of what she'd left behind. Her bedroom hadn't changed. Faded posters of Destiny's Child and LeBron James peeling off the walls, a twin bed with a lumpy mattress that creaked every time she moved. Marla hovered, worried but silent, while KJ bounced around, oblivious, begging her to play NBA 2K. Jada tried to settle in, took applications at the post office and a hardware store, anything to keep busy. But at night, alone with the crickets chirping outside, Ethan's face crept into her mind. Those blue eyes, that last fight, the way he'd let her go without a word. She'd scroll her phone, half expecting a text that never came, then toss it aside, cursing herself for caring. Friday hit with a vengeance. The sky over Ashwood turned bruise black, thunder rumbling like a warning. Jada was at Dixie, wiping down the chipped Formica counter when the rain started, fat drops smacking the windows, then a full-on downpour that drowned out the jukebox's twangy country tunes. The diner was slow, just a couple of regulars nursing coffee, and Tina, on shift with her, leaned against the counter, chewing gum. "You still moping over that rich boy?" Tina asked, popping a bubble. "I'm not moping," Jada said, scrubbing harder. "I'm done." "Uh-huh," Tina smirked. "That's why you've been staring out that window like he's gonna ride up on a white horse." Jada rolled her eyes, but before she could snap back, the bell above the door jingled. She glanced up, expecting another soggy trucker, and froze. A tall figure stepped in, water dripping off a dark overcoat, hair plastered to his forehead. He shook off the rain, stepping under the fluorescent lights, and Jada's world screeched to a halt. Ethan Carver, her breath caught, hands gripping the rag like a lifeline. He scanned the diner, eyes landing on her, and the room went quiet. Regulars staring, Tina's gum-popping stilled. He looked different, tired, unshaven, the polished billionaire edge dulled by the storm. But those eyes were the same, piercing right through her. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, barely audible over the thunder. Ethan stepped closer, water trailing off his sleeves onto the cracked linoleum. "I came for you," he said, simple, like it explained everything. And maybe it did. Jada's heart slammed against her ribs. She wanted to yell, to run, to throw the damn rag in his face, but her feet wouldn't move. Tina coughed, loud and fake. I'll check the fryer," she muttered, bolting to the back. The regulars gawked, but Jada barely noticed. It was just her and Ethan, the rain hammering outside like a drum roll. "You can't just—" she started, voice shaking. "You don't get to show up like this, Ethan. Not after—" "I know," he cut in, stepping to the counter. "I messed up, Jada. I let you walk away because I'm a damn coward. But I'm not doing it again." She stared, rain-soaked and stubborn, her apron clinging to her hips. "What's that supposed to mean?" He ran a hand through his wet hair, droplets falling. "Nia. She was real. I loved her. We worked together, built something, but my family hated it. Said she wasn't right for me. Code for not white, not rich. I fought them, but not hard enough. Then she died. Car crash, my fault. I was driving, too fast, too pissed. I've been carrying that ever since." Jada's throat tightened, Vanessa's words echoing. "So I am a fix, a redo." "No," he said, fierce, closing the gap. "You're not her. You're you. Stubborn, sharp, real. I didn't see it at first, but you got under my skin, Jada. I let you go because I was scared. Of this, of losing someone again, but I'm done running." Her eyes burned, tears mixing with the damp air. "You should have told me." "I should have," he admitted, voice raw. "I'm telling you now. I turned Vanessa down. Her deal, her games. I'm here because I need you, not as an assistant, not as a debt, as a partner. I want to build something with you, a project for communities like Ashwood. You in or not?" Thunder cracked, rattling the windows. Jada's mind raced. His words, his guilt, the offer. She glanced around, the diner's flickering lights, the life she'd fallen back into. Then at him, soaked, vulnerable, waiting. "Wait outside," she said low. "We can't do this here." He nodded, stepping back into the storm. Jada untied her apron, hands trembling, and mumbled to Tina, "Cover me. Emergency." Tina smirked, waving her off. Jada grabbed her jacket and pushed through the door, rain hitting her like a wall. Outside, the downpour soaked her in seconds, her curls flattening, shirt clinging to her skin. Ethan stood under a flickering street lamp, water streaming down his face. "You flew here?" she yelled over the wind. "For me?" "Flew, drove, ran the last mile when the car got stuck," he shouted back, a tired grin breaking through. "If you're staying, I'm staying. I'm not going back without you." Her chest cracked open, anger, hope, everything crashing together. She stepped closer, rain blurring her vision, and raised a hand to his cheek, cold and rough with stubble. "You mean it?" "Every word," he said, voice steady despite the chaos. His hand found her waist, pulling her in, and then his lips were on hers, hard, desperate, tasting of rain and bourbon. She kissed him back, fierce, her fingers curling into his coat as water ran down their faces. The storm roared, but they didn't care, locked in a moment that drowned out the past. When they broke apart, gasping, Jada pressed her forehead to his. "I'm not saying yes yet," she said, breathless. "You've got to prove it. No more walls, no more bullshit." "Deal," he murmured, holding her tight. "We'll figure it out, together." They stood there, rain pounding, until the cold forced them inside. At a corner booth, over lukewarm coffee, they sketched plans, a foundation for Ashwood, jobs, homes, a future. It wasn't perfect, wasn't easy, but it was theirs. Jada watched him scribble on a napkin, her hand brushing his, and felt something settle. Hope, maybe love, too soon to name. Back in her room that night, Ethan crashed on the couch downstairs at Marla's insistence. Jada lay awake, the storm fading to a drizzle. She'd taken a leap, not just for him, but for herself. They'd face fights, doubts, a world that didn't always root for them, but together, they had a shot. And that was enough. And that's the end. Or is it just the beginning? Hit that subscribe button, y'all, for more epic love stories, and tell us in the comments, what's your favorite moment? Jada and Ethan fought the storm, literal and not, and we're here for it. Stick with us. Every tale's got a lesson, and this one's about daring to love when it's hard.